So I added a little, about, I don't know, 2 inches of water to this bucket. And the thing with the island method is that it sort of works with any size bucket, any size container. I kind of even think it would work in my swimming pool, you know, if I had like a dump truck full of plaster. I'm just going to add plaster to this until a little island forms and maintains itself about the half the distance, half the area of the water that's in there. Some people will put the plaster through a strainer, and those people I feel like are even more anal than I am. It works if you just sort of sprinkle it. Don't dump it in there all at one time. It absorbs faster if you kind of just pour it in little by little, right in the middle. I need one of my masks. Okay, so you see that it's starting to form a little island right there. And you want to keep putting in plaster until that island sort of just maintains itself. Alright, getting pretty close. It's still sort of seeping away, so a little bit more. Oh, that's pretty close. And that's it. So I normally just use my hands, but I found these like nitrile gloves laying around, so I thought, nah, maybe I'll use them. Anyway, so you can start mixing it, and the idea is to get out all the lumps until it's nice and smooth. Once you're sure you've got all the little lumps out, then you can pour it into your form. The form can be anything: cardboard box. It could be, you know, another plastic bucket. I've seen people just use the bucket they used to mix it in and just leave it in there. But I'm going to use this little trash can. But first, I'm going to spray it with a release agent. In this case, it's WD-40. Just about anything will work. Cooking oil works, Pam works, Vaseline works, Murphy's oil soap works, dishwashing liquid works. So once you have that in there, is that a hair? Gross. No, it's not. Okay. Okay, so you'll see that there's little air bubbles that come up. And remember, this is a carving, so we need to get all those little air bubbles out. And you do that just by vibrating the plaster. And it's good to do it before it starts to like harden up. That way all the air bubbles get to the surface. So this is going to require another pouring to fill up the rest of the form. So what I did while we were away was all the little bubbles and stuff that came to the surface, I just sort of skimmed them off to one side, and that way there's no bubbles and air pockets in the center of your carving. So we're going to have to add another mix of plaster, and we'll do that right now. So before we add our second layer of our second batch of plaster, what we want to do is sort of scuff up the surface, make it, oops, irregular. Let me get that out of there. And so that the second batch has something to adhere to, because if it's just smooth, it might break apart really easily. So we can just do that by getting our fingers in there. What you don't want to do is create like little air pockets. So you just want to get the surface nice and sort of weird. No air pockets, and try not to make any like undercuts that I get in there. And as much as the surface as you can. Like that. So in the first batch we used the island method to mix the plaster, and just out of curiosity I decided to look up the exact specs to like mix plaster, and what they say is for every quart or 32 ounces you add 46 ounces of plaster. Okay, so that's not going to be enough to quite fill up the form. So so I'm going to do 2 quarts, so a half gallon, I think, and which is 64 ounces. And so I'm just doubling up the formula, and that means I'll have 46 times 2, so 92 ounces of plaster. So let's see if that works. Okay, there's 32. Oops, I didn't. Sorry about that. Here's 64. Okay, and then 64. Alright, not quite the island, but that's pretty close. And it goes without saying, I hope, that do not pour or put release agent between that part of the form and this part. No release agent. Ixnay on the release agent ray. Okay, so now we want to make sure all the bubbles come out. And it's okay, you don't have to skim it this time, just let them all come to the surface. So that last batch really did take 20 minutes to set up, and of course it's a lot faster when it's warmer. And so the water's cold, plaster's cold, everything's cold, so it took about 20 minutes. It is called 20-minute plaster. Okay, so we have it poured, and we just have to get it out of the form. Oh, easy. Alright, that's it, our carving block. Da-da-da.